So here are my top 10 reasons to learn C#, and they are in no particular order. Number 1, Microsoft and the .NET community. As part of the Free Code Camp core team, I've recently had the pleasure of being involved in a collaboration with Microsoft to create a free professional certification. The certification is named Foundational C# with Microsoft Developer Certification. It's an excellent professional certification that you can attain online, where you can gain up-to-date essential foundational knowledge of the C# programming language and .NET on the Microsoft Learn platform. And once you have appropriately traversed all the relevant course material, you can take an exam on the Free Code Camp platform. When you pass the exam, you'll be awarded your professional Microsoft certificate. The certification includes approximately 35 hours of course material that can be appropriately traversed on the Microsoft Learn platform. While you go through the course material, you'll be tasked with coding exercises and challenges. You will also be tested through multiple choice questions along the way to test the knowledge you have acquired. The course is made up of a series of modules. After you have completed each module, you'll complete a challenge on the Free Code Camp platform. Once you have completed all of the modules, you'll be qualified to take the Foundational C# with Microsoft exam, which is taken on the Free Code Camp platform. This exam is made up of 80 multiple choice questions and is designed to test your knowledge of the foundational concepts of the C# programming language. Once you pass the exam, you'll be awarded your professional certificate that can be added to your resume or CV or to your LinkedIn account and shared with potential employers. So this is a great opportunity to gain this professional verified Microsoft certification free of charge. For further details, please check out the Foundational C# with Microsoft announcement video released recently on the Free Code Camp YouTube channel at this location, as well as this announcement posted by Katie Savage of Microsoft. Please see Katie's announcement at this location. This is a great place to start your journey toward becoming a developer, as well as to prove to potential employers that you have foundational knowledge of the C# programming language. It is also a great certificate for experienced developers to include in, for example, your LinkedIn profile or on your CV or resume. Number 2, getting started is easy. Free tools like the .NET SDK and Visual Studio Code can be downloaded and installed free of charge. With these tools, you can create virtually unlimited types of applications. You can create web-based applications, cross-platform mobile applications, and cross-platform desktop applications. You can create globally distributed cloud-native applications. You can create Internet of Things applications, machine learning applications, and it is easy to integrate AI into your C# applications. You can create all of these types of applications and more. So let's look at how easy it is to get started. If you navigate to this URL, you can download an appropriate version of Visual Studio Code to your local machine. Visual Studio Code is cross-platform and can run on Windows, macOS, and Linux. So I'm running Windows 11. I'm going to click this button to download the install executable. Then I can locate the install executable in my Downloads folder, double-click the file, and install Visual Studio Code. For a great developer experience when creating C# applications, we can install the C# Dev Kit extension like this. We now have an excellent tool for creating and editing our code, but we need a tool so that we can create our projects, build our projects, and run our projects. So you can download the latest stable release of the .NET SDK for this purpose. You can navigate to this URL to download and install the latest stable release of the .NET SDK, which at the time of creating this video is version 7. So let's download the relevant .NET SDK install file by clicking this button. Let's locate the relevant install file in our Downloads folder and double-click it. I'm not going to complete this installation because I've currently got .NET 8 Preview 6 installed on my local machine. but I recommend having the latest stable release of the .NET SDK installed on your local machines. To verify that you have installed .NET, you can type this command at your terminal command prompt from within Visual Studio Code. Great! Then to create a .NET console application, you can run this command at your terminal. And we can update the program.cs file with the code for our application. Save the file and run our code with this command. This code merely outputs a simple text message to the screen, but you can, of course, also create complex applications using Visual Studio Code and the .NET SDK, for example, Blazor applications. You are up and running in a few moments and are now able to create a sophisticated web application. If you like this video, please hit the like button and please consider subscribing. Please also ring the bell so that you'll be notified of future content. Please feel free to share this video with anyone you feel may benefit from its content. If you'd like to thank me by buying me a coffee, you can do this at my Buy Me a Coffee webpage, which can be found at this location. It will of course be greatly appreciated. So, I've recently joined X, formerly Twitter. My username is @GavinLonDigital, so please feel free to follow me on X. I love reading your comments, so please feel free to engage with me in the comments section. Number 3, .NET 8. The official release of .NET 8 is due to be released in November of this year, 2023. It comes with many fixes, improvements, new features, and enhancements. New Blazor, .NET MAUI, cloud-native features will be included in this long-term support release of .NET. Many enhancements to the C# language will also be included in this release of .NET. .NET 7 was a standard term support release, which means it is supported by Microsoft for 18 months free of charge. A long-term support release means that .NET is supported free of charge for 3 years. As discussed, .NET 8 will be a long-term support release. Please check out my video on .NET 8, where I discuss some of the excellent new features included within this long-term support release of .NET. To access the relevant content, please navigate to this URL, where you can access the relevant playlist. So .NET 8 is another exciting new release of .NET. Number 4, Blazor. The Blazor framework is Microsoft's answer to React and Angular, and provides an excellent framework for creating SPA applications. With .NET 7, you are able to create your SPA applications using 2 project templates, namely Blazor Server and Blazor WebAssembly. Each of these frameworks has advantages and disadvantages. With a Blazor Server application, a WebSocket connection is maintained where any changes to the front end, which are created through the user's interaction with the relevant web page, are calculated on the server and transmitted to the client through a Signal R connection. With Blazor WebAssembly, all of the necessary dependencies are downloaded to the user's browser so that the application can run in the user's browser and no connection to the server is necessary. Although a Blazor WebAssembly app can run inside the user's browser without server interaction, typically the application's data is stored on the server, and interactions between client and server are done via HTTP requests to relevant server-side hosted web APIs. With the release of .NET 8, 2 new excellent features are included: SSR, or server-side rendering, and streaming rendering. Server-side rendering means that the HTML can be rendered server-side before it is transmitted to the client. This can result in, for example, faster load times and better SEO, search engine optimization, for Blazor applications. Faster transition times between web pages can also be achieved using server-side rendering. Very basically, streaming rendering means that dynamically created HTML pertaining to long-running operations, like for example data retrieval operations on the server, can appear in the user's browser after the static HTML that can be loaded almost immediately. So, streaming rendering allows for server-side rendered HTML to retain the spa effect, if you like, where HTML hindered by long-running operations can be loaded asynchronously in the user's browser. So, pixels are on the screen almost immediately after the relevant web page is accessed, and perhaps a loading indicator is displayed to the user while the dynamic content hindered by a long-running data retrieval process is being rendered on the server. Once the data retrieval process completes and the relevant HTML is rendered on the server, the HTML is passed to the client and replaces the loading indicator in the user's browser. Note that streaming rendering should not be confused with data retrieved asynchronously through a SignalR connection, which is what happens currently in Blazor server applications. Server-side rendering and streaming rendering use a typical request-response model. Another great feature with .NET 8 is that you can now leverage the Blazor web app project template and include server-side rendering, streaming rendering, SignalR, and Blazor WebAssembly features within one project. You can even use an auto mode, where the Blazor application decides, as it were, whether to use SignalR or Blazor WebAssembly for a specific web page. So, huge flexibility for Blazor is being built into .NET 8. So the Blazor features due to be released with .NET 8 is very exciting news for .NET web developers. I've recently created a video series on .NET and Blazor, which explores some of these new features in more detail. So please check out this video series at this URL. Number 5, Azure AI. Azure OpenAI Service. With C#, .NET, and Azure, you can provide amazing functionality that leverages artificial intelligence to, for example, answer users' queries made through your application using natural language. This functionality, enabled through Azure AI, means users can appropriately input queries into the UI of your application using natural language, and your application can within seconds display a helpful response back to the user in a human-like manner. The end result is users can have an almost human-like conversation with your application, where your application can respond with useful information, perhaps gleaned from complex data, to your users in a human conversational style. This AI functionality provides an incredible UX, user experience, with your applications. So let's put this into context with a practical example. Let's say your application is an insurance application where users can ask your application for clarity around certain aspects of their insurance policies. So a user might enter the following query: to what extent does my policy insure me against fire damage? Through Azure AI Studio, you can, through an easy-to-use user interface, for example, easily leverage a LLM, large language model, like ChatGPT, to retrieve information from your application's data and then respond in a human-like manner appropriately to users' queries based on the relevant data. So, for example, your application has been created for the purpose of helping clients better understand their insurance policies. Clients can make queries in natural language through your application. The query can be passed to an endpoint hosted on Azure. This endpoint abstracts away the complexity of the underlying Azure AI functionality, which you'll set up using Azure AI Studio, and a human-like response that is helpful to the user can be returned from a request made to the relevant endpoint, and the response can then be appropriately displayed on the front end of the relevant application to the user. How can ChatGPT be used with your own application's data? A user interface provided to you through Azure AI Studio makes it easy to customize prompts that are sent to ChatGPT. So through this UI, an orchestration can be set up so that a search across, for example, relevant insurance policy documents, that could be PDF documents, for example, is made, and appropriate results are returned from that search. The data from these search results can then be appropriately injected into a prompt sent to ChatGPT. Through Azure Studio, you can restrict ChatGPT to focus only on the data returned from the relevant search results. Through Azure Studio, you can test out possible queries that your application's users might make through your application using natural language. Azure Studio provides a user-friendly UI known as Chat Playground. So let's look at the example where a client of an insurance broker might enter a query into the UI of your insurance application. To what extent does my insurance policy cover fire damage? So, you can first test this out in Chat Playground. When you are happy with the results of your test, you can, through Azure Studio, expose this AI functionality as an endpoint that can be consumed by your client applications. So you may have a cross-platform mobile version of your insurance application based on the .NET MAUI framework that can leverage this API. And you might have a Blazor Spa application that can also leverage the functionality provided through calls to the relevant endpoint hosted on Azure. So your user can ask questions using natural language through your mobile and web-based interfaces in order to learn more about their insurance policies. You can imagine that getting meaningful information in a human-like, easy-to-understand style would be extremely difficult if this was to be done as a manual process. So your application essentially provides users with a friendly expert with which your users can communicate anytime they like. Pretty amazing. In both types of applications, your UI includes a facility where a user enters a query using natural language. So the user types, to what extent does my insurance policy cover fire damage? When the user submits the query, a call to the endpoint you have generated through Chat Playground is made by the relevant application. The HTTP request includes the user's natural language query, so to what extent does my insurance policy cover fire damage, is submitted to the relevant Azure endpoint and subsequently is appropriately injected into the prompt that is sent to ChatGPT. A search across your own application's data is made. The results of that search are then also appropriately injected into the prompt sent to ChatGPT. ChatGPT can then create a response based on the relevant data injected into the relevant prompt. Note that when you use Azure AI Studio, your data is secure and not, for example, somehow indexed and open for the public to search. Your data is kept private. So this is a very basic example of how you can leverage Azure AI to include amazing human-like interaction functionality into a real-world .NET-based mobile or .NET-based web application. The end result is truly mind-blowing. So what I've attempted to summarize is creating an Azure OpenAI resource using Azure Studio to ground your AI models with your data. So you can use ChatGPT with your own personal data to create responses to queries. You can test out potential user queries through Azure Studio, and when you are happy, you can expose this AI functionality as an endpoint, which can then be consumed by your client applications. This is all achieved through an implementation of what's known as the RAG pattern. RAG stands for Retrieval Augmented Generation, where you can retrieve facts, inject them into the prompt, or augment the prompt, and send the prompt to, for example, ChatGPT, which generates a new response. I've included links to these videos taken at Microsoft Build 2023 to provide you with more detail regarding Azure AI. Number 6, Unity. You can use C# to build sophisticated 2D and 3D games on the Unity game engine. Not only can you create and monetize games using the Unity game engine, you can also create many different 3D immersive interactive experiences for your users. Real-time tools and real-world results. Automotive and transportation. Drive success with augmented and virtual reality applications created from 3D product data. E-commerce and retail. Supercharge your commerce strategy and turn shoppers into buyers online and offline with interactive real-time 3D experiences. Architecture, engineering, and construction. Discover how industry leaders are embracing real-time 3D technology to change the way buildings are designed, created, and operated. So with a good knowledge of C# and Unity, you can create amazing immersive experiences in your applications and games. Here are some notable games that have been created using Unity and C#. Hollow Knight, Escape from Tarkov, Genshin Impact, Fury, Gwent, Kerbal, Phoenix Point, Number 7. C# is an in-demand programming language. C# is consistently rated by reputable sources as one of the top 5 most popular programming languages. .NET runs on a diverse array of platforms, which means you can develop diverse types of applications, so C# and .NET is extremely versatile. The versatility of the .NET environment and C# programming language means there's a huge number of opportunities for competent C# and .NET developers. Many companies require developers to have C# and .NET skills. Remuneration for junior, intermediate, and senior level .NET and C# developers is generally excellent. Learning C# and .NET may even spawn business ideas for those with entrepreneurial aspirations. C# and .NET are continually evolving in step with a forever changing environment, like, for example, the rapid evolution of AI, which means companies are choosing these technologies for implementing their business solutions. C# is the main programming language used on the Unity game engine, as well as other game engines, which means game development can also be a career path for C# developers. So you cannot go wrong with specializing in C# and .NET. .NET MAUI. MAUI stands for Multi-Platform App UI. .NET MAUI can be leveraged to develop apps that run on Android, iOS, macOS, and Windows from a single shared codebase. Write cross-platform apps in XAML and C# from a single shared codebase. Share UI layout and design across platforms. Share code, tests, and business logic across platforms. .NET MAUI provides a collection of controls that can be used to display data, initiate actions, indicate activity, display collections, pick data, and more. .NET MAUI also includes support for XAML hot reload, which enables you to save your XAML files and see the changes reflected in your running app without recompilation. So this makes the development experience super efficient. .NET MAUI provides an excellent framework for developing applications that run natively on a variety of different platforms. So you can leverage the capabilities of the underlying platform as well as create sophisticated UI designs and functionality using XAML and C#. Number 9, C# and .NET are continually evolving. The evolution of .NET is really quite remarkable and very noticeable, especially over the last few years. Before the release of .NET 5, .NET was fractured, where you had two main strands, if you like, of .NET. One referred to as .NET Framework, released in 2001, which needed to be installed in its entirety and could only run on Windows platforms. The other main strand was referred to as .NET Core, which was first released in 2016 and can be seen as a cross-platform modular agile version of the .NET Framework. .NET 5 merged these two platforms into one, so no more .NET Framework and .NET Core, but one unified .NET moving forward. .NET 6 further cemented the unification of .NET with its release at the end of 2021, and further enhancements were released with .NET 7, and even more enhancements are due to be released in November of this year, 2023, with .NET 8, which will be a long-term support release, meaning it will be supported free of charge by Microsoft for 3 years after its release. With the evolution of .NET, many enhancements to the C# programming language have also been made. For example, with version 9 of C#, the record type was introduced. C# can use the record type to create user-defined types, much like how you would use a class or a struct. So what is the difference between a class and a record? I found a useful answer to this question at this URL. I think this person has answered this question well in the Q&A section of the Microsoft Learn platform. They are a new addition. The gist of the matter is that records are designed for the common case of data-only types. They more closely resemble structs than classes. A class is an OOP, object-oriented programming concept, that wraps data with functionality. A record is just a set of data. Immutability of a record is enforced by the language. But note that records do not have to be immutable, just like structs and classes don't have to be. But they are primarily designed for immutability purposes, hence just a set of related data. To read a bit further about record types, let's see an excerpt from the Microsoft Learn platform. C# version 9 introduces record types. You use the record keyword to define a reference type that provides built-in functionality for encapsulating data. You can create record types with immutable properties by using positional parameters or standard property syntax. Variable equality. Value equality means that two variables of a record type are equal if the types match and all property and field values match. For other reference types, equality means identity. That is, two variables of a reference type are equal if they refer to the same object. In C#11, generic attributes have been introduced. List patterns. Also with C#11, you can match an array or a list against a sequence of patterns. These were just a few basic examples of the types of enhancements that are continually being made to C#. C# is a modern language that is continually evolving to provide developers with new conveniences and to help developers leverage greater power with less code. Number 10, C# is an exceptionally well-designed language. C# is a relatively young language, first released in 2001, and has been built with the benefit of the knowledge gained from other programming languages that came before, like Visual Basic, Java, and C++. The architect behind C# is the renowned Danish software developer Anders Hallsberg. Anders Hallsberg co-designed several programming languages and tools. He was the original author of Turbo Pascal and was also the chief architect of Delphi. He currently works for Microsoft as the lead architect of C# and core developer on TypeScript. C# was built with rapid application development in mind. Rapid application development was a core reason as to why Visual Basic was so popular. So the creators of C# wanted to include the benefits of rapid application development and the power and expressiveness of C++ in this new programming language. In order to achieve these goals, as well as provide for language interoperability, meaning multiple languages could run on one substrate, .NET, a runtime was needed. So the .NET framework was created for this purpose. The .NET framework provides a set of base class libraries that provide generic functionality to .NET applications. A core part of the .NET framework is the Common Language Runtime, or CLR, which can be described as a virtual machine and provides services like just-in-time compilation, memory management, security, and exception handling. Initially, .NET could only run on Windows platforms and needed to be installed in its entirety. Now, in 2023, .NET has evolved into a unified, modular, agile, versatile platform that can run on a multitude of platforms like Windows, macOS, Linux, iOS, and Android. .NET can run inside Docker containers and can, for example, be leveraged within globally distributed applications that run in the cloud. C# has a unified type system where everything is essentially an object. It has a well-designed type hierarchy where developers are constrained to writing type-safe code at compile time. Please note, there is a dynamic type that allows the developer to circumvent the type system. C# is a strongly typed language, which means type-related runtime errors can be preempted at compile time. So before executable code is released into production, into the wild, type-related errors have been dealt with, allowing for code to be more robust at runtime. Sophisticated qualities like generics is built into C#, where you can initiate generic types at runtime. So C# is a strongly typed, object-oriented programming language that has been built with ease of use and power and expressiveness in mind. C# is a general-purpose, high-level programming language supporting multiple paradigms. C# encompasses static typing, strong typing, lexically scoped, imperative, declarative, functional, generic, object-oriented, and component-oriented programming disciplines. Fun fact, C# was initially entitled Cool, C-like object-oriented language. Its syntax is similar to all languages based on C, for example Java, C++, and JavaScript. C# is my personal favorite programming language, and I recommend learning C# to anyone aspiring to create software. I hope you enjoyed this video on why C# is the rock star of all programming languages. So, those are my top 10 reasons to learn C#. If you like this video, please hit the like button and please consider subscribing. Please also ring the bell so that you'll be notified of future content. Please feel free to share this video with anyone you feel may benefit from its content. If you'd like to thank me by buying me a coffee, you can do this through my Buy Me a Coffee webpage at this URL. It of course will be greatly appreciated. So, I've very recently joined X, formerly known as Twitter. My username is @GavinLonDigital, so please feel free to follow me on X. I really love reading your comments, so please feel free to engage with me in the comments section. Thank you, and take care.